Welcome back, ladies. Okay, if you don't know me, my name is Kate London, and I am an affair recovery coach, helping women through the pain of going through or living a double life. So, if you are currently in an affair, you might be the other woman, the mistress, or you could be in a relationship and also in a relationship with someone else that is married, then I'm here to support you on your journey. I personally was in an affair for 7 years. So I have been through what you're currently going through. And the reason why I am drawn to this work in serving you ladies through this process is because of the pain that I went through every single day of living this double life and not knowing who to turn to, how to get out of it. And so I hope this video can be of service. If you haven't heard my story, or if you have heard my story, I'm going to touch over it. So again, in this video, we're going to be talking about the purpose or the power of talking to someone and getting help from someone to help you through this experience. I had the other day, yesterday, I had someone reach out to me and say, wow, your journey has been incredible. I'm so proud of you, seeing you grow like this. And it really hit home to me because and it's inspired me to quickly create this video, is because I realized how far I have come on this journey. I personally told no one about my affair for 6 years. I was so shameful and guilty and shocked at myself for getting into an affair. And I want to quickly tell you, if you may not relate to my story, and that's completely okay. If you're in an affair, every experience is completely different on what meaning you give to the affair situation and how it makes you feel. So you may not relate to the emotions that I was feeling. You may relate. If you don't, just go on to a different YouTube video, or you even click on some of the other YouTube videos I've created that may serve what you're feeling. But just for the purpose of this story, I'm going to touch on my personal experience in hopes that it may serve you in getting some perspective of how I got through this situation. So I hadn't told anyone for so long, and I was just so shameful and guilty and shocked. Like I I was really shocked at how could me, Kate London, someone that doesn't want to do anything wrong or hurt anyone or step on anyone's toes or hurt the wife. Like I really cared for her. The last thing I would want to do is go behind her back and hurt her. Why was I, that person that really wanted that, doing that? And so I was really confused on, or feeling such shame in what I had gone through, that I told no one. And I was so shameful that I didn't even want to tell a counselor or a therapist, because I couldn't hear those words come out of my mouth. But that is the very thing that stopped me from creating change in this affair experience. The reason why it took me 7 years to get through this affair experience, holding on to a relationship, to a man that could only give me 20%, holding on to someone that I couldn't be in a relationship with. The reason why it took so many years is because I didn't have support. And I know for sure, or it happened as soon as I got the support, life changed instantly. And so I did tell, eventually I told a therapist, and I was going to this therapist appointments and going straight back into the affair. And every time I'd go to appointment, I'd go straight back into the affair, go to the appointment, go straight back to the affair. And it would drive me crazy because I so badly wanted to end the affair. And I was investing in therapy and nothing was changing. And so I just want to quickly share like where everything really started to shift and my personal experience. to be hopefully of service to you or add value to you and what you're going through. So for me, I was up north. I was interstate, so I had caught a plane somewhere, and I had been to this big event. And when coming home, I was catching a plane home, and there was lots of people that had been to the event that were also catching the same plane to the same city I was going to. And I missed the plane, and so did another lady. And so we sat for 3 hours waiting for the next plane to our city. And so we're chatting about things, and we realized that we had quite a few things in common with health perspectives and stuff like that. So we're sharing. Anyway, I had to break it to her. So I've left out a little piece of information. So at this event, I spoke to someone for the first time, or I had spoken to the therapist before, but didn't really get any help. And I had spoken to this one guy at the event. I'm kind of glossing over this, but because I've told it before, but you may have not watched my YouTube videos on it. So I probably should tell it properly, because otherwise, if I'm glossing over it, it doesn't really make sense. At this event, it was a Tony Robbins event. And so there was like people from, I think, over 100 different countries going to this event, massive international event in Australia. And I saw this man, and he was speaking to the security team, and he said, "You guys have come here for a reason." And I could hear this man talking to this team, and he's like, "You guys have come here for a reason. Make sure you get all your questions answered, and make sure you do not leave this 7-day event without those questions answered. Keep asking until you find the right person who can support you on your journey in getting those questions answered." And I heard him, and I was like, he is my man. I am asking these questions to my therapist or like to myself, and nothing's changing. He is going to be someone that can hold the space for me to share and speak up about what I'm going through. So I procrastinated talking to him for 6 days. And then on the very last day, I was so petrified. Honestly, this guy was a random person from the United States. I'm from Australia. And I was still so petrified of sharing what I had gone through and telling him, I sleeping with a married man. I am in a relationship, a sexual relationship with someone who has a wife and kids. And honestly, hearing those words, I wanted to vomit. I felt disgusting, and I was so shocked by myself. And so like the last thing I wanted to do was share those words with him. But the very fact that I wasn't telling anyone was the very reason why I wasn't creating change in my life, because I needed that support from people to help me move through what I was going through. The only person that was helping me with what I was going through was my affair partner. And when you're talking to your affair partner about your biggest challenges, and they're in the challenge as well, they can only offer you one perspective, which is very much a perspective that is ingrained in the experience itself. When you can speak to someone that is removed from the story that you guys are both going through, you can create a whole lot bigger perspective and see. You step out of the story, you step out of your experience that you're going through, and you can kind of see the wood for the trees, or the trees for the wood for the trees. You can kind of step out of the forest and see the whole forest for what it is, not just the wood. And so I don't know if I gave that analogy right, but you know what I mean. And so I procrastinated talking to him, and eventually told him right when it was the worst possible time to tell him. And I broke down. Like, I couldn't hold myself up. I couldn't even tell him. I was saying all this, like, oh, I have an issue. And he's like, so what's your issue? And I was like, oh, well, it's kind of an issue with like a relationship. And he's like, so what's going on? And I was like, I kind of like someone. And he's like, what is your, like, tell me what is going on, because you're not telling me. And I was like, I don't want to tell you. And he's like, Kate, I cannot help you until you be fully transparent about what it is that is holding you back. And I didn't want to be transparent. I didn't want to share my truth because I didn't want to hear my truth out loud. And hearing my truth out loud, like, it was a massive kick in the face to me, because somehow keeping it internally didn't make it a reality, but voicing it out loud made it very real. And so that happened. And he said, because I was really young, he said, you need to tell your parents about this. And I was like, my parents? Like, no, my parents are never going to hear about this. Yes, I love my parents. He's like, do you love your parents? Do you value your parents' perspective? And I said, yes. And he's like, you need to tell your parents. And I was like, no. And I was like 100%, there was no doubt about it. I was not telling my parents. Tell your parents, oh yeah, I've been in an affair for 6 years. Like, happy days, parents. There is no way. I was like, there is no way I am telling my parents this. And he's like, you need to tell them. Here's my number. Tell me once you've done it. You need to tell your parents. So that was that. I was petrified, and I was also 100% like, I'm not telling my parents. Like, I need your help, person. I need your help, but I'm not willing to do the work that you're telling me to do, essentially. So I was like, help me. And actually, like, a month later, when I was still getting his support, he actually said to me, if you're not willing to do the work, I'm no longer willing to help you, because you're not even willing to help yourself. And I was like, help me. Help me, even though I'm not willing to help myself. And like, it was such a big bridge to climb over. And I really needed so much support and so much push. And those words, that push that he gave me, was really necessary and pivotal towards the change. And so if you're going through an affair experience, I assure you that the people in your life that are holding you to the standard that they see you are at, but not currently operating at, if they can see that standard and they speak to that standard, then you will naturally rise to that standard. And so it is imperative, it is vital that you get support from people that can truly see your value, see your worth, see your potential for what it is, and will speak to that potential instead of the person that you're operating at right now. Because I can assure you, if you don't tell anyone, or you tell people that can't really hold the space for what you're going through and be non-judgmental about it and actually support you on your journey, then you're naturally just going to stay in the comfort of your discomfort. You're just going to stay stuck, because it's such an uncomfortable leap for you to create change on what you're going through. An affair is not easy. It's really not. And it's quite challenging to share the feelings that you're having with someone. It's sometimes hard to find someone to talk to about it that's not going to be judgmental about it. Sharing things like, will he ever leave his wife for me? I want him more than I'm getting him. All these things, you kind of feel often that you shouldn't have those feelings because he was never yours. And so it's important to talk to someone that can really, I don't know if you just heard that, but my stomach really just made a hungry growl. Anyway, that was loud. and I lost my train of thought. It's important to get someone to speak to that can really hold you to that, because if you don't have that, you're naturally just going to fall back to where you've been falling or settling for so long. So back to my story on what happened in my experience, just checking that I'm recording. I then left this event and went to catch the plane, and I hopped on the I missed the plane, and so did another lady. And so we were sitting here, and I was literally like, oh, he's telling me I need to tell my parents, and there is no way. Like, I am not, no, I like, no, I'm not telling my parents. There is no way. And so I wanted to just like tell, like, I just needed someone to talk to, because I was like, I can't do what he says. Like, I'm not telling my parents. And so I just needed someone to share what I was feeling. And she had been through this massive life event, so she kind of would be able to relate to like us at this event cleaning up our life shit so we could get our life on track, kind of thing. And so I spoke to her and I was like, listen, this is what's happened. And I spoke to this dude, and he's telling me that I need to tell my parents, and there is no way, absolutely no way I am going to tell them. Like, no, they don't need to know. And she was like, I am a mother, and your parents need to know. And she's like, do your parents love you? And I was like, yes. I'm like, are they supportive of you? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, you need to tell your parents. And I was like, oh, I was hoping someone would like kind of align with my truth and be like, yeah, don't tell your parents. And she was like, you need to tell. And I was like, oh, just someone support me with what I'm feeling right now. And she's like, I will, because she was flying to the same city, she was like, I will drive you to your house and help you tell your parents. And I'm like, I don't need your help, or I don't need you to drive to my house. I just need you to say, yeah, don't tell your parents. And so I was not getting that from her. And she was like, I will drive you to your house. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not telling my parents. And she's like, Kate, your parents are there for you. Trust me in this. You need to tell your parents. And I'm like, oh, like, and like the emotion, like, oh my gosh, I really feel what you're going through right now, because the emotion can just feel too much. Like, it's so much to go through and feel, and it's just exhausting. And you just want to go, you know what? I'm just going to jump into bed, cover myself with my bed sheets, and just put it off for tomorrow and put my focus into something else, because this is just really needing to go in the too hard basket. It's too difficult. And like, I really feel if you're going through this right now, there's so much emotion and it can feel like too much, but I assure you, stick with it, sit through it. It is there for a reason. And if you continue to ignore it, it will continue to stay in your life, essentially. So this lady, this beautiful lady, was being adamant that I needed to tell my parents. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to tell my parents. Absolutely not. And she's like, here, how about you text them now and tell them that you need to talk to them when you get home? And I was like, no, like, I'm not telling my parents. Like, there is no way I am going to tell my parents that I have been sleeping with my boss who is married. Like, no, for six years, however long it had been going on when I told them, 6 years. Like, no way. And so eventually she's like, Kate, it has to happen. If you're wanting change, like you're saying you want change, then you've got to do it. So I texted my parents and was like, hey, mom and dad, like, I would like to chat to you when I get back in Brisbane. Would we be able to talk? And like, too much. It was too much for me. And so then I got home this was, sorry, I was just staying at my parents. I didn't live there, but I was just staying at my parents while I was like flying back to the city. So just like for the night. Um, so essentially what I was thinking is I was like, no, I won't tell my parents. I'll go straight back to where I live, which is where my boss lives. And yeah, pretty much just enter the affair again because I'm not getting support and I'm really struggling to leave the affair. So if I don't tell my parents, no one's going to know, and I'm just going to kind of live back in my old lifestyle. So I asked my parents if I could speak to them when they picked me up from the airport, and I stayed at their house for the night. And yeah, I it was just so much. It was so much to go through, and like I honestly believed, for one, if the affair family found out that I was in an affair experience with his family, I knew 100% without a doubt that I'd be outcasted from that family. And that family meant so much to me. Like, it became my family. I felt like they were my family and they meant so much to me. And I had lived there for, it ended up being 7 years. It ended up being a big portion of my life. And so if they were to ever find out, like, I knew that they had become everything to me and I would be completely outcasted from their family. And I was so afraid of that. I was so afraid of being seen differently in the eyes of those people that I love. And then to add to that, telling my parents, I was like, and now I'm just going to be outcasted from my parents and my whole family as well. Like, I'm going to be a nobody and no one is going to like me, and everyone is going to think completely differently of me. And yeah, my life is just going to be over tonight. Like, not over in regards to actually wanting to end it. I think that's a very serious conversation, and I can for sure talk about that more in another conversation. But I mean, over like, I'm just going to be a nobody, was kind of the feeling that I was feeling in that moment. And so, yeah, I told my parents, and I for sure like told them the bare minimum because it was so much for me to 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 express. And I can assure you that telling this man and then telling this lady, by the time I told my parents, like, the whole last 48 hours, I think I had cried all my reserves of H2O in my body. So by the time I told my parents, I was like, this feels shit because I don't have any emotion left into me. I had been on the floor in tears, like where I could not breathe for those other two people. And then with my parents, I'm like really, like, I definitely was crying, absolutely, but I was like, I'm not like a wreck on the floor, and I would prefer them to see that and see that this has affected me instead of not affected me. But it was a little bit hard to really tell them the extent of what was going on because it was just too confronting to tell them. So I kind of shared little insights without actually saying, no, this has been a really long affair experience. I kind of said it's happened a few times. And with time, days and weeks and months and years, the full story came out to them. Like, I would just continually add to the story, and they'd be like, it's getting like heavier and deeper and heavier and more than what we thought when we originally heard it from you. But the reason why I tell you this is because when I was living in this affair experience, multiple times I had tried to come back home to my family's house just in kind of change phase. Like when you're changing up your job or your workplace or your living environment, it's kind of easy to just like pop back into your family's house, grab your feet and see where you want to move to next, kind of thing. And every time I came back to my family's house trying to end this affair, my family was supportive of where I had just come from. And I'm like, I'm trying to leave that place because there's an affair going on. But they kept being like, why are you leaving there when it's so like so good, kind of thing. And so I never felt supportive of leaving from my family and from my affair partner. So I felt unsupportive of the action that I wanted to take. My affair partner didn't want me to leave. My family didn't want me in my house, was what I felt. They really did want me on my house. They wanted what's best for me, but they didn't know that there was a massive affair going on. And so they couldn't give me the support that I needed. And so the reason why I'm telling you this is because the change, what was fundamental to my change was when I could really get the support from people that could support me on my journey and could really hold me to the standard that I felt I was deep down, but was really not operating from. And until I told people that really could support me on that, nothing was changing. Like I was trying to end the affair, coming back home, going back out, coming back home, going back to the affair, coming back home. And just like the amount of times I was trying to end it, you could count on so many different limbs, and not ever changing anything. And just receiving that message from that lady yesterday on how far my journey has come, I realized that without telling her and without her force on really supporting me in speaking my truth, in getting support, no matter how scary, no matter how fearful I was of being outcasted from the people, the families that I love most, it was vital for me to act on what deep down my soul was calling me towards, no matter how scary it was. And every single part of my ego was 100% certain that I was not going to tell my parents, or that I was not going to take these certain actions because it just seemed too scary. And so if you're right now in an affair and your soul is calling you to like end it, or to shift your job, or to or tell the wife if you feel like that needs to happen, whatever it is, whatever your soul is like being like, this is what needs to happen, and your ego is like, and there is no way that is happening, and your soul is like, it needs to happen, and your ego is like, fuck no, like, excuse my French, that was really like that's what your ego sounds like. It's like, no way am I ever going to do that. And your soul just keeps hinting at this higher truth that you have inside yourself. And until you listen to that soul's gentle, ever-present push, it will keep talking until you listen. And so if you're fighting against your ego's wishes, desires to stay comfortable and to stay away from conflict and pain, and fighting against that with your soul's desire to step into your true worth and potential, I assure you the number one thing that's going to really support you in creating that shift is talking and getting the support from people that can hold your ground when your ego really wants to walk away from what you deep down truly know is right to act on. You need to have people that can hold the strength for when you have lost yours. So I leave you with that one. People are so pivotal in our growth, anyone's growth to success, to fulfillment. We need each other. We need each other. And it's so it's so vital to have that support to support you on your journey. So I hope that story helps you with the affair experience that you're going through. If you would like support from the services that I offer, you can always reach out on Instagram. This was not necessarily talking around my services by any means. It's more so to tell yourself, like, if you have a sibling or have a family member that you can tell, or a best friend, that will hold you. Like, it's important to tell someone that can really, where you can really feel safe, seen, understood, heard, so that when you speak your truth, you don't walk away feeling worse for having opened up about something so vulnerable and raw to you. So I just wanted to quickly touch on that. But anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to wrap it up. Bye for now. Bye.